Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Nmguni.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Ministers, Deputy Ministers, members of the House, our guests, and the masses of our people. We dedicate this input to the tribute, as a tribute to the distinguished revolutionary zeal and fighting spirit of an internationalist par excellence who has just fallen following over 6 decades of unrelenting struggle.
Point of order.
Honourable Nmguni, will you take a seat, please? Why are you rising?
I rise in terms of the rule of anticipation. We'll be having a condolence motion for the gentleman he's referring to as the next order of business.
The Honourable Member is just busy introducing his debate, so let's allow him to do so.
Over 6 decades of unrelenting struggle, not only to liberate the Cubans or the Cuban people from colonial oppression and exploitation, but also fundamentally to liberate the entirety of the oppressed the world over. The name of Commandant Fidel Castro is the name of a revolutionary that will live forever. The revolutionary legendary code is our battle cry as we take on this House debates, which are said that.
On a point of order,
Will you take your seat, please?
this is clearly the wrong speech, the wrong debate. The member's confused.
Honourable Nmguni, will you get back to the debate, please?
Honorable House Chair, can I address you on this, please?
Yes, Honourable Member.
Thank you, so that my time is saved. I absolutely see nothing in introducing a speech and a context in which I so prefer, which I know is absolutely out
Honourable
of
Member,
order.
that's
And
why,
I therefore request-
that's why I say get on with the debate, please.
Thank you so much.
House Chairperson.
Yes, Honourable Member.
I rise in terms of Rule 90. No member may anticipate the discussion of a matter appearing on the order paper or agreed upon the programming committee for scheduling. We have an order paper with a motion to for condolences, as well as a discussion at programming committee this morning. The member is violating the rule of anticipation.
I haven't heard him yet paying condolences. He must now connect what he said with what he intends saying in his speech.
Our battle cry as we take on this House debate, which asserted that the history of all hitherto existing societies is the history of class struggle. In the ANC, the revolutionary movement and disciplined force of the left, we've always understood, asserted, and contextualized the land question as based on a society with deep scars of race, class, gender, and gender emanating from the historical legacy of apartheid capitalism or apartheid colonialism, or in short, the CST. As the ANC, we have never been confused. We have understood the unity, the struggle, and the relationship between these 3 forms of contradictions, race, class, and gender. Class represented the essence or the content, while the race merely represented the mere form. However dominant the latter, however dominant the race that is. In its nature, racial prejudice defeated its logic right from the onset in the South African context. Following the leadership of Jan van Riebeeck, for instance, how dare would the white supremacist colonial regime subsequently fall into the hands of a son of an Indian slave descendant, Maria Leven. He was not a pure white. Racism was therefore a farce in the South African soil right from the onset. We cannot give overdue emphasis. Yes, Simon van der Stel was not a pure white during the time of white supremacist rule, and therefore white supremacy defeated itself right from the onset by putting in place Simon van der Stel in the first place, whom we trace very clearly, scientifically and historically. Today, racists have no place in our midst, or whenever we see them, we shall challenge them and give them a good hiding and paste them to the wall. The South African land question is a class question. From the imperialist agenda that gave birth to colonialism in our country, the CST, springs a theoretical location of the land question as a class question. We may not have enough time to demonstrate this adequately to our detractors, but suffice to highlight some following few. Wait on. South African society bleeds from the wounds of haves and have-nots. The commissar from the APC alluded to this point. These are antagonistic groups of people called classes. By summary definitions, classes are, open quote, groups of people according to their relationship to the means of production, close quote. The South African society is therefore a
Honourable
class
Nmguni,
society.
will you take your seat, please? Why are you rising, Honourable Member?
Rule 92.
What in terms of Rule 92?
Our eardrum are suffering. He must not shout.
That is not Rule
Just,
92.
Please relax.
Honourable Nmguni, will you continue, please?
The South African society, the land is the primary means of production upon which
Order, Honourable
most
Members.
other productivity in the South African society and in all other societies is based. All other production is based on the land. Production, therefore, or productivity would include mining, agriculture, manufacturing, etc. Based on South Africa's unique history, the land ownership patterns, therefore, hitherto reflect a skewed bias towards the white male monopoly ownership. Monopoly capitalism, rampant in our society, continues to dominate not only our land ownership stakes, but further owns almost everything else. The media, the banks, the mines, oil, energy, and indeed all the commanding heights of our economy. As monopoly capital owns an overwhelmingly big share of our wealth, it has, on the other hand, produced glaring inequalities fraught with contradictions, as you will see, between rural and urban, men and women, which is referred to as gender question, the rich and the poor, and such other glaring symptoms of inequality. Likewise, when few suck the blood or the labor of the poor majority, consequently, the extent of poverty gets exacerbated beyond imagination. It is the ANC's mission to liberate the poor from their plight. Ngeli xesha oswana sibomvana belala beqhaphe amafutha nobuncwane, bona abantu bakokwethu babhuqubhuqu bamthuqwasi balambile banqaniwe bayintyumpantyumpeka ngandlela zonke, sithi kubo i-ANC khona umzabalazo uyaqhubeka. Of the over 50 million South Africa's population, a whooping 8 million plus constitutes a huge army of unemployed lot. It is an inherent feature of the capitalist mode of production to reserve a huge army of unemployment. Capitalism is incapable of producing sustainable and quality jobs for all. Those who are apologists of imperialism and its extension, capitalism, cannot do anything to undo their own making. The ANC is duty-bound through its revolutionary program, its radical socio-economic policies and political will, among others, to stand on the side of the unemployed. We want to visit some few highlights that the ANC has done. The NDP, to start with, as the government's minimum program, note the minimum. We can go way, way beyond NDP, by the way. Does provide a vision for an alternative to apartheid's legacy's dispensation on the question of land and rural development. As it provides, I quote, by 2030, South Africa's communities must have better opportunities to participate fully in the economy, in the economic, social, and political life of the country. Rural economics will be supported by agriculture and, where possible, by mining, tourism, agro-processing, and fisheries. It goes on, infrastructure development, job creation, and poverty eradication, my emphasis, eradication. Underdevelopment in the former homelands must be confronted. The NDP further provides for creating 10-year security for communal farmers, integrating financing forms and leveraging public-private partnerships, among a whole range of propositions outlined. We now look at the expropriation bill. Our neoliberal detractors, obviously where they sit, can never denounce the white domination of the economic ownership stakes. If anything, they stand exactly to ensure the protection of unjustified unjustified
Honourable
accumulated
Nmguni.
wealth.
Will you just take your seat, please? Why are you rising, Honourable Chief Whip?
House Chairperson, I'd like through you to request the member whether he would take a question.
Honourable Member, are you prepared to take a question?
After, yes, after, only after I finish.
If you have time left, Honourable
If I
Member.
have time
Yes.
already, my
Continue.
House Chair, thank you. To this end, ours being the negotiated democracy will remember World Trade Center. Therefore, certain provisions in the Constitution would be used as barriers to our own radical economic transformation. The property clause in the Bill of Rights has hitherto been such a valve to block strides of the ANC. The ANC, noting this, has, however, led the process to put in place, I quote, the law of general application, close quote, being the expropriation bill passed by this House on the 27th of May. This is the bill, Honourable House Chair, which is awaiting to be signed into law. Once signed into law, the ANC government will roll up the sleeves and fast-track the rollout of land reform through its various tools at the disposal of the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform. We note, however, the latest developments and anarchy, and insist that land invasion is an unacceptable crime, as is generally applicable in nature and in society, that any unallocated grab of resources, be they material, human, economic, social, or otherwise, in a democratic dispensation, it is regarded as backward, barbaric, and unscientific. The inherent value of grabbing is, the inherent logic in land grabbing is, I quote, each one for himself or herself, and the devil takes the hindmost, I close quote. By land grabbing, you are then saying each one for himself or herself, and the devil takes the hindmost, close quote. So we are saying, how can we as society scientifically undertake these crucial elements of land reform is sporadic, spontaneous looting of land, if sporadic, spontaneous looting of land is to be the order. Land use and or spatial planning as a scientific tool to plan social and economic development. To this end, the ANC-led government has passed Spatial Planning and Land Use Management Act, in short, SPLUMA, and its regulations as well. We want to propose to those who propose land invasion that instead of that unscientific, sporadic, and illegal tool, rather land usage must be planned for, as there is now piece of statute and its regulations in place. Now, DA Speaker stands here, Honorable Walters, before us and tells us that money is not a problem. Is not a problem. Really, the honorable member is living in his own world, because restitution at the current pace with the current budget could take up to 144 years, and he knows very well, unless he has not advised his party. And therefore, the budget is definitely a constraint. In actual fact, if you ask my opinion, more money lies in private hands who are represented by one party to the House here. And that's the money that should be accessed in order to fast track. The other fact raised by the DA is about the title deeds in communal land. We suggest that you don't just conclude for the people, you consult the people. In fact, in your own DA, in your own policy documents, you talk about the people in former homelands who must then remain there. We are saying false. The people in homelands must feel free to settle anywhere in South Africa.
On a point of order, Chair.
Honourable members, can we just keep the interjections a little bit down? I can't hear the member. Yes, Honourable Member?
The Honourable Speaker is misleading the House, and I marched with the people that asked for
No,
titles.
Honourable
I
Member,
consulted.
that's not a point of order. Honourable Member, continue.
House Chair.
Chair.
House Chair.
Why are you rising, Honourable Member?
House Chair, I wonder if you could ask the member to stand a bit closer to the microphone. Some of us are struggling
No,
to hear
that's not a
him.
point of order.
So you're
Honourable Member,
struggling to
continue.
hear, the others' ears are
Just
drumming up.
continue, Honourable Member.
We close off, Honourable House Chair, by indicating that the ANC has been there in all committees. The offer by the EFF for 6% for expropriation without compensation
Honourable
has
Member,
not
your time
been
is now
recorded,
expired.
and therefore it shall not hold. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member.